Hello and a warm welcome to CBA English News, reaching you from CBATV, the voice of East Africa and beyond. My name is Ajara Matijani. Now the headlines. Farmajo meet with Southwest State leader amid political crisis. Somalia Prime Minister tours Baldoglu base ahead of US troops withdrawal. 3 people killed in twin bombings in Shabelle region. Uganda opposition faults electoral body vows to hold forbidden rallies. Sudan, Ethiopia, Egypt resume meeting overjoyed. Now the news in full. Somalia President Mohamed Farmajo held talks with Southwest State leader Abdelaziz Laftagarin amid growing political tensions as consensus between the government and opposition groups become elusive.
This meeting, which lasted for many hours, sources said the two leaders talked for long, but there was no official communication from Fila Somalia on the meeting. Laftagarin, the president of Southwest State of Somalia, is among 3 other regional states presidents who were fronted and supported by Farmajo into office. The Southwest president and his Hirshabelle counterpart Ali Goodlawe did not join their colleagues during week-long forum in Garowe this past week. Abdi Qorqor of Galmudug, who is among the president's men in the federal member states, has recently been aligned to Puntland's Abdullahi Deni, a fierce critic of Mogadishu. The two leaders said last week they were ready to mediate the election talks. Deputy Prime Minister Mahdi Guled also pledged to open talks with the opposition. For the past year, there have been political disagreements between the federal government and the federal member states of Somalia over the upcoming parliamentary and presidential elections. Despite efforts to alleviate the political tension, it seems no final solution has been found for it.
The Prime Minister Mohamed Hussein Rablu has toured Balidoglu military base in Lower Shabelle region, southern Somalia, ahead of the US troops withdrawal in this month.
Mohamed Hussein Roble, the Prime Minister of Somalia, has paid a working visit to Balidoglu military base in the Lower Shabelle region of Somalia. He is accompanied by ministers and military officials and will be monitoring the operations of Danab and US troops based there. During his visit, the Prime Minister will meet with the US and Danish military officials to discuss the fight against Al-Shabaab in southern Somalia. He will also assess at Balidogle camp for special training for the Somali National Army's Danab commandos. The visit comes at a time when AFRICOM is winding up its stay in Somalia. The outgoing Trump administration set January 20th as the final exit day for the US troops in Somalia. The Pentagon said the troops will be stationed in neighboring countries including Kenya and Djibouti.
3 people confirmed dead and 8 others were wounded in bombing attacks in the Shabelle region of Somalia, but no group has yet claimed responsibility for the attack.
Initial reports indicate 3 people have been confirmed dead and 8 others were wounded in a bombing attack in the Shabelle region of Somalia. Reports added Somali soldiers are among the victims of the attack. The injured soldiers were transferred to a hospital in the capital Mogadishu for treatment. No group has yet claimed responsibility for the attack. This attack comes days after a suicide bomb attack at a road construction project site that killed at least 4 people, including Turkish nationals. Al-Shabaab has claimed responsibility for Saturday's attack. For the past decade, Al-Shabaab has been fighting to overthrow the federal government and to establish an Islamic state for their own interpretation in the region. On several occasions, the federal government and AMISOM pledged to intensify the war on Al-Shabaab, but the group still conducts military operations and assassinations in Somalia and the region.
Talks between Sudan, Ethiopia and Egypt resumed Sunday over the controversial Ethiopian dam on the Nile River. The resumption came 6 weeks after Sudan boycotted negotiations in November, urging the African Union to play a role in reaching a deal over the Grand Ethiopia Renaissance Dam, JERD.
Talks between Sudan, Ethiopia and Egypt resumed on Sunday over the controversial Ethiopian dam on the River Nile. The resumption came 6 weeks after Sudan boycotted negotiations in November, urging the African Union to play a role in reaching the deal over the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. The meeting online had centered on the filling and operation of the $4.8 billion dam. South Africa's Minister for International Relations and Cooperation had called a meeting to discuss issues relating to the dam. South Africa is the current chair for the Bureau of the African Union. Sudan's news agency SUNA said that the three countries during the meeting reviewed their positions on the possibility for reaching a formula to allow the resumption of negotiations after the submission of the Memorandum of Agreement to the three countries by the African experts. The meeting adopted Sudan's proposal for allocating this week for holding bilateral meetings between the three countries and the experts, SUNA said. The tripartite meetings are scheduled to resume on January 10th. The three countries have been in talks under the mediation of the AU since June last year after the Washington rounds of negotiation, aided by the United States and the World Bank, broke down. The last round of talks brought together foreign affairs and water ministers of the three countries as well as the experts assigned by the African Union. Egypt has been opposing the dam since construction began in 2011, saying that the hydro scheme would reduce the flow of water downstream. However, Ethiopia maintains the dam would be vital to addressing the country's acute shortage of electricity for domestic and industrial use. The latest talks came amid border tensions between Ethiopia and Sudan.
The Egyptian health authorities have granted regulatory approval for the use of a COVID-19 vaccine developed by Chinese pharmaceutical giant Sinopharm, with the vaccination process expected to get underway later this month.
The Egyptian health authorities have granted regulatory approval for the use of a COVID-19 vaccine developed by Chinese pharmaceutical giant Sinopharm, with the vaccination process expected to get underway later this month. The first batch of the vaccine was delivered to Egypt in December, with further doses expected this month. The Egyptian Health Minister Hala Sayed confirmed that proper vaccination will commence once the second shipment of the vaccine arrived in the second or third week of January. The minister said further that Egypt plans to buy 40 million doses of the Sinopharm jab, and each batch of the vaccine consists of 50,000 doses. Earlier, he announced that the first group that will receive the vaccination will be the country's medical workers. The Sinopharm vaccine has been approved for emergency use in a few countries, and the company is still conducting late-stage clinical trials in 10 nations. COVID-19 infections and deaths have reached new heights in the Arab world's most populous state, amid warnings from health officials that the true figure of fatalities may be far higher than reported. The urgency of the unfolding crisis has prompted Egyptian authorities to cancel New Year celebrations and ban wedding gatherings and funeral ceremonies. So far, Egypt's overall COVID-19 tally stood at 142,187 cases with 7,805 deaths. Kamil Sadiq, CBATV.
And now to Uganda. Uganda's opposition politician Robert Kyagulanyi, alias Bobi Wine, has vehemently faulted the electoral body for partisanship and bias in electioneering campaigns, as he was arrested yet again last Wednesday after engaging police and running battles around Kalangala Archipelago.
During his first two rallies in Kiegegwa and Kiejenjo districts yesterday, Bobi Wine asked supporters to not only look out for their NUP party symbol, the umbrella, but also vote all candidates that are seeking change at all levels of elections, especially parliament and local councils positions. I will simple his umbrella, but most importantly, I charge you to look out for all candidates who are seeking change. We need to work together because taking out a dictator means that we will have to have a combined effort. He told hundreds of his supporters who turned up at Kibuye playground in Kiegegwa, but later reiterated the same message to Butito playground and Kiejenjo district. This is the first time Bobi Wine is giving his supporters such a message during the campaign trail, despite the fact that the musician turned politician had been calling for collective energy as change-seeking force to outcast President Museveni's 35-year rule. Following his arrest last week, a number of presidential candidates suspended their campaign programs until Kyadondo East legislates were released.
Still in Uganda, National Unity Platform presidential candidate Robert Kyagulanyi, alias Bobi Wine, has launched an app called YouVote, saying he will help in the personal tallying of vote during the January 14, 2021 presidential election.
In the new year 2021, we choose hope over fear. We choose confidence over doubt. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the year that we all have been waiting for. This is 2021. We have been planning for this year. We've been waiting for this year. And now we are here.
National Unity Platform presidential candidate Robert alias Bobi Wine has launched an app he says will help in their personal tallying of votes. Mr. Bobi Wine said that the app named YouVote was developed with sophisticated technology and can be downloaded by all voters to make sure that the votes are seen as they came from various polling stations.
And I want to take this opportunity to announce to the nation and to the world that for the last few months we have been building an application that will help us bring together the results of this election. That application is called YouVote, and you will be able to access it from Google Play Store. This application will help us ensure that we tighten every noose that the dictatorship was trying to use to rig our vote. With that application, you ensure that you get the declaration form and send it to that app. You take a picture of the DR form and send it to that app. That can be done by our agents, but it can also be done by any citizen, because this is not only about agents, this is about all the people of Uganda. And I want to invite all the people of Uganda to kindly be part of this, because this is going to be historical.
Bobi Wine explained January 2nd during his end-of-year address at his home, Megere, Wakisto district. According to Bobi Wine, the app can be downloaded from Play Store and can be used by all people to view anything that's happening in the various polling stations. During the same address, Bobi Wine also said that he would be going to the east for some of the districts he did not manage to visit.
I want to appeal to you not to be robots. Be human beings. You are citizens. You are men and women of honor. You wear our national badge and our national flag with honor. You deserve dignity. You don't deserve shame. I want to thank all of you for listening to me, and I want to request you to spread this message far and wide. Thank you very much for God and my country, and I wish you a very happy New Year 2021.
In a similar development, the East African Law Society, ILS, a regional law forum, has condemned the human rights violation being committed against lawyers, journalists, political activists, and the public in Uganda ahead of the country's January 14 polls.
A round of applause. In a statement issued on Thursday and signed off by the Law Society presidents from Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania, Burundi, Zanzibar and Kenya, the East Africa Law Society threatened court action should Ugandan officials include the President, Attorney General, military and police leadership fail to forestall further human rights violations, and Uganda is currently experiencing one of the most violent electoral seasons in decades, characterized by mass arrests, deaths and disfranchisement of opposition candidates. In November, 54 people were killed by security forces after sporadic protests broke out in Kampala and other urban areas following the arrest of presidential candidate Robert Kyagulanyi, also known as Bobi Wine, for flouting electoral guidelines instituted to curb the spread of the coronavirus. Over 800 people have so far been arrested following the protests. While on the campaign trail, opposition presidential candidates have often been blocked from gaining access to rally venues, radio and television stations. They have also had their supporters beaten, tear-gassed and some run over by security vehicles.
Several cases, not only about Arua, but on Sunday I was in Namayingo, and the brutality meted against civilians in the fishing industry across the border has gone on unabated. Reports have been sent to the UPDF command. Nothing has happened. So now I want to know how we can initiate proceedings.
But the procedure is there, and seriously, we are equally affected by the reaction of some of our soldiers. What I want to say is that these are not institutional reactions. there are individuals that warrant punishment.
We note, of course, that the European Union is of the view that these charges are trumped. We cannot necessarily jump to that conclusion. The Law Society will be interested to ensure that justice takes its course, but very promptly, so that everyone gets to know of the causes of the fracas in Arua.
The UPDF just keeps telling us we are carrying out investigations. Why didn't you use the same quickness that you use it to arrest those people who allegedly stoned the president's vehicle? The same to those people who allegedly tortured the journalists and other Ugandans. Because it creates a mind of perception.
So this incident that happened has really put us in bad light. And we are not happy about it. That's why the investigations have been instituted, and we are waiting for it to get the suspects and arraign them before court. And it will be open court. All of us will be invited to attend.
On December 27th, Francis Santeza, a private bodyguard to Kyangulanyi, was allegedly knocked down and run over by a military vehicle, but the army said without evidence that he fell off a moving car. During these campaigns, Kyangulanyi had his car shot at twice, first in Jinja in November, breaking its windshield and missing the co-driver by a whisker, and in Kyotera on December 27th, as security forces tried to divert him to another route. Forum for Democratic Change presidential candidate Patrick Amuriat Oboy was on Monday, December 28th, rushed to hospital after being pepper sprayed in Mbale by police as he tried to get to the city centre. In the week leading to Christmas, the Electoral Commission suspended campaigns in 16 districts which it deemed to be at high risk of COVID-19 transmission, but some opposition politicians have vowed to campaign there. The government has also been targeting civil society and journalists, with several non-governmental organizations working in the governance and democracy sector having their bank accounts frozen and some of their foreign staff deported. On Wednesday, prominent human rights lawyer Nicholas Opio, who runs rights organization Chapter 4 Uganda and whose arrest and subsequent charges of money laundering created international calls for his release, was released on bail after 9 days of detention. Ashraf Kasiri, a journalist with Ghetto TV and Radio 1, is still fighting for his life in a hospital after police shot him on the head with a rubber bullet. Ali Mivuli of NTV was injured on the thigh, while Daniel Lutaya is currently working on crutches after being hit by a tear gas canister while covering Kyagulanyi's campaign. Several arrests of opposition coordinators and activists have been reported across the country, with families and friends unable to trace them. By Thursday, about 80 members of Kyagulanyi's campaign team, comprising of technicians, sound engineers, security detail, photographers and medical personnel, were still in custody after police and the military arrested them for the Central Uganda archipelago of Kalangala. The regional bar said that it had set up an ad hoc rule of law committee comprising of experienced lawyers from across the region for purposes of collecting and preserving relevant evidence and to prepare watertight cases against the violators. The East Africa Law Society said that the government should own up to the increasing reports on the deteriorating human rights, reduction of civic space and the rule of law, which are its obligation under the Constitution as well as under the treaty establishing the East African Community.
Now to Central African Republic. Rebel fighters have partially captured the southern city of Bangassou in the Central African Republic, CAR. The move comes weeks after they were accused of an attempted coup and ahead of partial result from a Northern presidential election.
Rebel fighters have partially captured the southern city of Bangassou in the Central African Republic. This move comes weeks after they were accused of an attempted coup and ahead of partial results from a nerving presidential election. A coalition of armed rebel groups, which controls two-thirds of the coup-prone country, launched an offensive on December 19th, aiming to disrupt last weekend's elections and march on the capital, Bangui. They have been kept away from the capital city so far by federal soldiers, United Nations peacekeepers and reinforcements sent from Russia and Rwanda. But the rebels attacked Bangassou, a diamond mining town which sits on the border with the Democratic Republic of Congo, about 750 kilometers from Bangui, at dawn on Saturday. The rebels control the town, Roosevelt Pierre-Louis, the head of the UN peacekeeping force, told news agencies on Sunday. They are everywhere. Government troops abandoned their positions and are at our base, he added. At least 5 rebels were killed and 2 army soldiers were wounded in the clashes, MINUSCA said in a statement, adding that the fighters were allied to former President Francois Bozize. Doctors Without Borders said it had transferred transported 15 wounded in the fighting. The government of President Faustin, the favorite to win the December 27th election, has accused Bozize of fomenting an attempted coup, a charge he has denied. The rebels launched the offensive last month after the Constitutional Court rejected Bozize's candidacy to challenge Touadera in the election. The rebels launched the offensive last month after the Constitutional Court rejected Bozize's candidacy to challenge Touadera in the election. The rebels also waged a dawn assault on Saturday on the town of Damara, which is Touadera's stronghold about 70 kilometers north of Bangui, but were repelled by the troops, Minister said.
Straight to West Africa, an inter-community violence in a village along Niger's restive border with Mali has claimed the lives of more than 70 people, while dozens sustained varying degrees of injuries.
An intercommunal violence in a village along Niger's restive border with Mali has claimed the lives of more than 70 people, while dozens sustained varying degrees of injuries. Niger's Interior Minister Al-Kache Al-Hada confirmed that the attack took place in two villages near the border with Mali. The minister further added that the attack is believed to be in retaliation to the earlier killing of two fighters by villagers. The violence came on the same day Niger announced the results from the first round of a presidential election. Former Interior Minister Mohamed Bazoum of the governing Nigerian Party for Democracy and Socialism was leading the vote with 39% of the votes. He will now face former President Mohamane Ousmane, who garnered 17% of the votes in a runoff on February 20. Travel by motorbike has been banned in Tillaberi since January in a bid to prevent incursions by highly mobile rebel fighters riding on two wheels. Fighters with links to Al-Qaeda and the ISIL armed group have increasingly mounted attacks across West Africa's Sahel region in recent years, despite the presence of thousands of foreign and regional troops. Last month, 7 Nigerian soldiers were killed in an ambush in Tillaberi, while 34 villagers were massacred in southeastern region of Difa on the Nigerian border. Kamil Sadiq reporting for CBATV.
From the world of sports, Abdelaziz report that Cristiano Ronaldo scored twice and created another goal as Juventus trashed Udinese in Serie A. Details with Abdelaziz Guled.
Buonanno, Happy New Year everyone from Tony Dorigo and me, Steve Banyard. Yes, a challenging 2021 begins for the champions, who like the rest of us need a shot in the arm.
Cristiano Ronaldo scored twice and created another goal as Juve thrashed Udinese in Serie A. Ronaldo opened the scoring with a trademark drive after Ramsey's pass before threading a through ball for Federico Chiesa to score. Ronaldo's second goal took his tally this season to 14 from only 11 games. Marvin Zagala scored a stoppage time consolation for Udinese before Paulo Dybala added a fourth for Juve. Andrea Pirlo's side moved 10 points behind league leaders AC Milan with a game in hand, while Udinese dropped to 13 and are without a win in 4 games. Manchester City produced a ruthless attacking display to cruise past Chelsea at Stamford Bridge and increased the pressure on manager Frank Lampard. The visitors, who were without a number of first-team players following an outbreak of coronavirus at the club, stunned Chelsea with 3 goals in 16 first-half minutes. Ilkay Gundogan's crisp low finish broke the deadlock and Phil Foden doubled City's lead 3 minutes later, tacking a superb first-time strike beyond Edouard Mendy after fine work from Kevin De Bruyne. De Bruyne's deservedly got his name on a score sheet with a close-range finish after Raheem Sterling's curling strike had rebounded off the woodwork. Bayern Munich scored 5 second-half goals as they came from 2-0 down to beat struggling Mainz and go top of the Bundesliga by 2 points. Jonathan Bergkamp and Alexander Hack struck before the half-time to shock the defending champions. Bayern to draw level thanks to Joshua Kimmich and Leroy Sané. Substitute Nicolas Soulé also scored before Robert Lewandowski netted twice, the first one being from the penalty.
And with that sport report, we've come to the end of the news bulletin, which came to you from the studio of CBATV, the voice of East Africa and beyond. More news on the way. Stay tuned. My name is Ajara Matijani. Bye for now.